Hey everybody, welcome back to another spooky story Sunday, and right now my face looks spooky because I have minimal makeup on, so don't mind me. But today we are going to be reading another story from yourghoststories.com. This story was called I Heard Him Clear as Day. It is written by Green for Life, and it was written in 2017. We are reading from the state of Georgia this week. So, let's begin. I was born in a Mormon family. Ghosts and demons are not spoken of in my religion. I grew up believing these types of things cannot exist in our world because our soul immediately leaves the earth and does not stay. My religion says that spirits cannot stay on earth and therefore they cannot exist. I had believed my family and my religion for most of my life until my encounter as a teenager had happened. To this day, I cannot talk about it with my family because they will say I'm just a crazy person with an imagination. But I know I was not the only one in the house that had experiences. I'm also a military brat. I had lived in so many states and countries, and being in so many places, I was skeptical to the paranormal. It was not until our very last location in Augusta, Georgia, that I now believe in such things as ghosts. It was my last 2 years of high school that we decided to live off base. My dad had finally started to retire from the Army, and my oldest brother was in his senior year of high school, so my parents decided to stay in Augusta. When we were looking at homes, as a family, there was a particular house that I completely fell in love with. I was hypnotized by it, and so was my mother. It had 4 rooms, an awesome attic, and 2 floors with a big kitchen. We had never had our own space ever growing up. Military houses are small and crammed, so this was like a dream house to us. I have a younger sister and brother. My 2 brothers got to have their own room, while my sister and I had to share a room. At first everything was fine. Nothing happened until like 8 months after we moved into the house. My mother hated the inside decorating because the people that lived here before painted every room with very dark colors, and it was kind of ugly. We also would find their hair all around the house, and it grossed us out, so my mom started painting the rooms, changing carpets and such, and that's when things started to change. It was springtime. We were finally on spring break, and I was so excited to have fun and fool around with my friends. During our breaks, my parents would throw get-togethers with friends around the neighborhood. When we had people over, we would retire in the second living room, where my father would play the guitar and people would sing songs. We had a big window in the front of the house where the second living room was. I was sitting next to it. It was about 8 at night, and I looked out the window and I saw this thing. I wasn't sure what I saw. Actually, it was just black and had wood spikes. I knew it wasn't human. It didn't really have a human form to it. I told my father what I saw, and he went outside to look, but he didn't find anything. He told me not to worry about it, so I stopped caring about it. Later that night, I had fallen asleep during the party in the second living room, and I just felt like I needed to wake up. You know that feeling when your body is an alarm clock and says, "Okay, Missy, time to get your butt up," LOL. When I had awakened, I heard footsteps coming from the dining room. I figured someone was awake, and then I looked around and all the lights were off. It was completely silent in the house. No one was on the first floor. I heard it a second time, still couldn't figure out where it came from. I shook my head and went upstairs. A month passed after that, and I was getting ready for our finals at school. I forgot about the footsteps and what I saw a month ago. I was alone in my room working on some math problems. I heard my name being called. It was a man's voice, so I assumed it was my father's. At first I didn't answer, and it called me again. I got up and went downstairs and asked my mom what my father wanted. She said that he wasn't home. Him and my 2 brothers went to take our dogs out. My sister wasn't home either. It was just my mother and I. And I said I could swear I heard Dad calling for me in my bedroom. She said I was studying too hard and to take a break. I figured that was true, so I just stayed downstairs. The following night, I was listening to music, and I had misplaced my notepad. I couldn't find it. I took my desk apart looking for it frantically. I stood in the middle of my room looking around, trying to retrace my steps with it. Then I felt it. These steps behind me, they were heavy. They weren't loud. I couldn't hear them, but I felt the vibration on the floor. I thought someone was entering my room, so I turned around and nothing was there. No one came up the steps or down the stairs. I stopped for a minute, and then I felt this cold breeze out of nowhere. It gave me goosebumps. I wasn't scared though. I was just froze, like, what the hell, frozen. And then I heard someone coming. It was my sister. "Katie, your notebook was downstairs in the pantry." "Liz, don't scare me like that," I yelled at her for making my skin crawl. And she said it wasn't her, she just came up here. I told her what had happened and she just shrugged at me. It still puzzles me today because it was such a weird sensation. A little later, it was the day of finals, and I was super stressing. It was my high school graduation exam, so I was just freaking out about passing this thing. I stayed up most nights to where my sister started to sleep downstairs. On the last night of studying, I was sitting in my bed going over science because that's my worst subject, and I felt my bed on the left side pushed down. I thought it was my sister telling me to hurry up, so I looked up. Nothing was there. I touched the indented part of the bed, but nothing was pushing it down. And then I felt a push onto my chest and I fell backwards. I was so scared, like I've never been this scared before. I screamed pretty loud, and my parents rushed in, along with my siblings. I couldn't explain what had happened. My parents were concerned with how tired I was and all my studying, and they took my homework away and told me I needed to read the scriptures and relax. I was super freaked. When my parents left, my sister stood in front of me. "You saw him, didn't you?" she said. I stared at her. I couldn't understand what she was saying. I felt like the wind was knocked out of me. I thought I was going crazy. She repeated the question again, and I said I didn't know. I told her everything, and she seemed like she understood me. She told me that she captured a ghost on the camera when she was taking a now so-called selfie. I am a little older. Cell phones just came out during high school, so not everyone had one. She had a digital camera, and she showed the pictures to me. She said she showed them to Mom, and Mom said to throw them away. The ghost in the picture looked like a sickly boy. His eyes were all sunken in and pale skin. Something wasn't right with it. You could tell that it wasn't right. I asked her if she was going to keep them. She said she wanted me to see them before they were deleted. I agreed with her that we should delete the pictures. I just felt like I wasn't alone anymore. My sister was going through the same thing as I am. After my brother graduated, he moved out of the house, and the three of us left got to have our own room. My youngest brother moved to my oldest brother's room. My sister moved into the other room, and I got to keep the one we were already in. Things picked up when my sister moved out. But of course, so did my paranoia. I mostly slept with my sister until I left for college. I still sleep with my mom or sister at that house when I see my family. I will not sleep alone ever again there. Anyway, after the summer came, I was out most nights until about 11, when everyone had already gone to bed. I went to my room with a popcorn and a movie to watch. I laid out in my bed, and it was about an hour into my movie when I felt the temperature change in the room. I grabbed my blanket, and then I felt something cold on my leg. I thought I didn't cover it, so I looked down and it was completely covered. I was like, okay. Then whatever it was grabbed my leg. I pulled on my ankle, lifting my leg. I was screaming, of course, at the top of my lungs. My sister was the first to come into my room, and she saw my leg in the air. She thought I injured it and then pulled me. I was being pulled off my bed, and my sister started to scream along with me. I was completely shaken. I was crying and screaming and cursing. My sister grabbed the Bible and threw it at the air like she thought she would hit it. When the Bible fell to the floor, my leg fell to the bed. I grabbed my legs and I screamed and screamed and screamed. My parents finally came in the room. I told them a ghost grabbed me. My father wouldn't hear any of it. He said I was dreaming, and my sister said she was here too. My father completely ignored it. He said we were lying and that we were sinning and rebelling. I told my dad I wasn't rebelling or lying, but he didn't believe, and he still doesn't. He sat down and we read some verses out of the Bible, but I told my dad I would never sleep in this room again. That morning, I moved into my sister's room, and I stayed there ever since. After I moved into my sister's room, I went kind of crazy. No lights were allowed off at night. TV had to be on. The air had to be on full blast. My parents thought I was going crazy and wanted me to go to therapy. My sister backed me up and said it was fine for me to have all the lights on. I couldn't sleep anymore. After I got out of the bedroom, I heard the footsteps walking the hallway most nights. The toilet and faucet would always run, but I have never encountered a problem with a ghost in any part of the house. To this day, I cannot go in that room. It scares me half to death. I tried looking at old records of the house, but I only found an old man lived there in the 70s, but the last people were weird, so who knows what they did. My sister doesn't have the photos anymore. She won't go in that room either. The room became a storage place since no one would sleep in it. To this day, I sleep with all the lights on. What had happened to me scared me completely. I don't know what it wanted, but I know it wasn't nice. Every time I go home and sleep with my parents, I still hear it walking. Even the dogs follow it. And yet, my parents won't believe it is there. Maybe I was just sensitive to it. Or maybe I was an easy target. I don't know. But I still can't talk about it. This is the first time I ever talked about it. The end. Okay, everybody. So let me know what you guys think. I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel like I offend people, or I feel like I'm offending people when I say this stuff. But to me, that is a problem with religion. As you might know, I'm not a religious person myself. I think there is a lot of flaws to religion. There's just too many different types of religion. I'm not saying that I don't believe in a God, because I do believe that there is a chance that there could be some type of like bigger form creator. But I don't believe in religion. I definitely highly know and definitely believe and acknowledge that it is man-made and pretty much control. But I mean, that's like another video to get into. But I definitely believe in spirits, obviously. And I feel like a lot of religions kind of make you seem crazy if something else happens. And wow, I look really bad today. I'm so sorry, but like, yeah, my makeup's like not even on. It's like half-assed on, and it's like full makeup. Anyways, back to my point. If there is like a ghostly encounter and stuff, a lot of religions, I'm not saying all religions, but a lot of religions don't believe in the paranormal or spirits or ghosts. And usually if they think it is a ghost, even a friendly ghost, they think it's a demon. And I mean, in this case, it was a bad spirit. Like, it wasn't a good spirit. I don't think a good spirit would try to pull you out of a bed or scare you like that. But if you have a child and they're saying things and they are sincere about it and they tell you same over and over again that there's something in this house, I see it, I hear it, it's not nice, listen to them, you know. It might sound crazy to you, but to them it's real. And it can either be psychological, like they could be schizophrenic, but push that aside and try to believe them that it's something spiritual first. And maybe it will open your eyes and you'll see, and, you know, I always say this, ask questions if you don't know much about it. Like, talk to, like, I'm not religious, but talk to priests and pastors and stuff, and maybe they can help you. I highly recommend ghost hunters, highly trained ghost hunters. Try to find one in your area if you're having this problem, or if you want to talk to someone, if you or your child is having these problems, or even like a friend or something, you know. Always look for help, and especially if it's like something bad or, you know, tragic, and don't ignore them. That's what I think is so flawed about religions, is that, you know, they're so, dare I say it, brainwashed, that if something paranormal does happen in their home, they ignore it completely and just blame other things when it's obviously paranormal and possibly demonic or evil. And they don't listen to their kids. They just, you know, pray over the Bible and just read the Bible verses. And honestly, the Bible's really not going to do anything. If anything, it's going to make it even more angrier. So be careful with that, and just, you know, ask for help. And don't ever play with the Ouija board. I'm just saying that now. I've done that. Don't do that. And, you know, don't do anything stupid or crazy if you need help with getting a spirit out of the home. I mean, as always, the best thing to do is to move out, but that's not always the best option or available option. But I feel like I'm just rambling on because it's nighttime and I'm kind of half tired. Oh, I'm not really half tired. I'm like half asleep, and like I just feel gross and like look gross, and it's really hot in here because I have like a bunch of candles in my room and like my cute little ghost buddy. And the funny thing is, I feel like I creep myself out. Every time I read these stories, though, I always hear something. It could be the wind, though, because there's a window right there on my dresser, you know, where Prissy sits. I always feel like there's noises over there when I read, and it freaks me out when I read these, but I can't stop, you know. But do you guys remember when, I think it was the Florida, the last one I did, there was like that knock on the window? That was so creepy. But anyways, it was fun reading to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. And don't forget to comment your thoughts on the story, like up the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more notifications for when I post videos. And I will see you guys next time for more spooky stories. Bye!